Hello, it's
Hey,
Camille. Hey, how are you, Maria?
I'm so good. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you. So, I am with Maria, and we are going to talk to you guys about making everyday connections with your family. So, Maria, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Maria Eckersley, and I am a mom of six kids. My oldest is just barely married. She's a newlywed, and then my youngest just turned 8. So I kind of have a full
You got this
spectrum.
band.
Yeah, so it's busy and crazy, but all good. So a lot of what I do family history wise is like tucked into the nooks and crannies of day-to-day life, which turns out that works out really well for me. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I live in Draper, Utah, with most of my kids. I have a son who's preparing for a church service mission, so he's here, and he might pop in. Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me.
Oh, that's so fun. Yes, my preschooler is home, and so she might drop
Oh,
in on us too. So,
great,
we'll be fine.
great, fine.
That's so fun. I love that you mentioned that you fit family history in just in your daily life. That's so fun. Would you mind giving us like one or two examples of that?
Yeah, so, well, I'm just not, how can I say this? I'm not terribly great at traditional family history. But I found the more I learn about family history, the more I realize my definition of it was really narrow. So I actually am
Yes.
pretty good at the broad view of family history. And that's kind of what I try to focus on, is like where I can feel like I'm winning rather than feel guilt or pressure. So for me,
Amen.
yeah, a few little things like I when I grew up, I didn't grow up knowing my ancestry really at all, because there was a split in my family when my parents, for religious reasons, there was like a divide that happened. So I didn't really grow up knowing them. So when I decided finally as an adult to kind of try to get into family history, that was a big roadblock. I didn't really know where to reach. So I found that when I just would kind of tackle a little bit at a time, it was approachable to me. So little things like I've pulled up photos of my ancestors doing certain things, and I will plug them in around our house. Like I have a couple sons who are doing music, and they don't love doing music, but I learned from my grandma's story that she met my grandpa when he was playing the French horn at a concert, and they met afterwards. And so I have a picture of my grandpa, and he's holding my mom as a baby. But whenever they go to play the piano or play the guitar and they whine, I'll be like, "Hey, remember Grandpa Saul? That's how he met his wife. You don't want to like skimp on this." So it's those
Yeah.
kind of like little reminders throughout the day that are just kind of tucked in around our house. I try to like bring it up often. I'll say things like, "Oh, that's so much like your Grandpa Jay. You're so much like him." Because I think just kind of having little associations with specific names and specific ancestors helps kind of tie those generations together.
I love that. I love how simple that is and how doable. And I agree with you. Like that's what we try to accomplish at the 21 Day Connections experiment is no guilt. Like
Yeah,
just try it. It's just an experiment. I mean, what happens during an experiment? You're just trying it out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But
right.
hopefully you see those benefits, and you've obviously seen those benefits. So that's so cool.
Yeah.
So how did you finally get to know those stories? Like, did you ask your parents? Did you just
I did, but it took some figuring out. I
okay?
wasn't I really didn't know where to start, because there were some they don't have any negative feelings towards their family, but there is a bit of a disconnect. And so
Okay.
I was nervous that if I all of a sudden press them for a lot of information, it would come off wrong, right? So one of
Yeah.
the things I did is I just took a box of old photos that was in my parents' house. I actually stole it. So they were not that they wouldn't have given it to me, they would have, but they were on a trip and I was watching their house, and I knew that there was this box of photos up at the top of one of their guest room closets. And I'm like, I'm just gonna pull it down. I'm just gonna scan them, right? So I didn't have a scanner. I didn't have any fancy tools, but I just kind of like laid all the pictures out on my kitchen table and started taking pictures of them. And I
Wow.
started kind of associating, oh, look, these are the same people. These must be a family. And once I had those pictures in my phone, I found all of a sudden like I could ask really good questions. I call them Kickstarter questions to my kids, because it's like
Oh, I love it.
it's almost like you can kind of do a little bit of detective work. So when I saw a picture of my great grandma, for example, she was often in an apron in almost every picture. So instead of just saying, "Hey, mom, tell me about great grandma," and making it a hard question to answer,
A
I
broad
would,
one.
yeah, I would just narrow it and be like, "Hey, I noticed she's in an apron all the time. What did she cook? Like, did you have family traditions that were about cooking?" And then all of a sudden, my mom would like spill out information.
Wow.
So over the course of lunches and dinners at her house, or anytime I'd see her, I'd pull up a photo or two and say like, "Okay, tell me about this one. Who is this and why are they in front of a barn?" And by being able to like have something to show, it became this very concrete, very answerable question, and then I could kind of piece together their life story. I still don't feel like I know a lot, but I feel like I know
Right.
enough to love them, like
Yes.
I could
Yes.
bond. And that's what I
Yes.
needed.
You've got that desire in you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I could see that there were similarities in me, like I could see some of their tendencies and think, yeah, that fits with what I do. So that helped.
Oh, that's so fun. I love that you call them Kickstarter questions. And I love those questions because it makes it not so scary.
Yeah,
And because it's like, where do you start? Where
right.
do I start telling you about my grandma? Where do I start telling my kids about my grandma? And I had someone ask me the other day, I had just met them and they're like, "Tell me about yourself." And I'm like, what do I say? I don't know.
I don't know.
Right? I don't know. I'm me. And then he goes, "Well, give me the 30-minute rundown. Give me a 30 seconds. Sorry, 30-second
Yeah.
rundown of you, like a commercial." And I'm like, "Okay, I can do that." And so I spit out a bunch of facts. And once he narrowed it down for me, like what he wanted to know about me, I was able to do it. And yeah, so I love the idea of the Kickstarter questions and showing them photos and stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
So
it
like
made a huge difference.
yeah, oh, I bet. Like I'm asking, yeah, like where did they go to school? Did they go to school or where were they living and what was it like? And that's really cool. I love that. What jobs did they have? Yeah, I had a recent experience with that. My husband's great grandpa is still alive, or grandpa is still alive. And I'm like, "I want to write down your life history. You're 96, 95. It's time to write it down." And he's like, "Oh, I've got I think he called it short-term memory, but it's obviously long-term memory loss," is what he said. And he's like, I don't remember anything." I'm like, "Well, let's just ask some questions and try." And he's like, "Oh, let's just see what you remember." And he goes, "Oh, I only remember the bad stuff." I'm like, "Great, tell me the bad stuff. I just want to know something." And anyway, he ended up talking for an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy. And all I asked about were his jobs. Like, what did you do for work?
Yeah.
What was your first job? And once I narrowed it down, he had so much to say. And I ended up finding out about his parents and his grandparents and uncles and aunts. And so that was really cool. So I love that idea of asking those certain questions that narrow it down.
Well, and they open up like an avenue to research, because I can't rely on my parents for all the information. So when I found, one of the examples we talk about is my son saw a picture on the kitchen table, right? As I've got all these pictures put out. And one of the pictures looks like a newspaper clipping of a guy who looks like Dumbledore, but 100 years ago, kind of.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Mom, why do we have Dumbledore in our family tree?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Let's find out." So then
go find Dumbledore.
Figure out who this is. So I asked my mom and she tells me about my great great grandpa and how he used to dress up like the old school St. Nicholas for his town. And so then I'm like, oh, there's got to be a story there. In fact, I could tell in the picture that it was a newspaper clipping photo, right? So I'm like, there must be a newspaper clipping to go with this photo. I've got to figure out where that is. Yeah, so that's when it opened up this opportunity to be like, okay, I got to find something more. And because we knew there must be something, it was so much easier. So then Will and I could work together to figure out his story. And we found out like incredible things about him, that he did these huge Christmas parties for his entire town and that he and his wife would put gifts together for like thousands of children just out of the goodness of their heart. I never would have known that story had we not had that one photo. It was incredible.
Yeah. And if Will hadn't asked that question, why do we have Dumbledore in our family?
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, that is so cool. Did Will enjoy that story?
Oh yeah. In fact, we tease about it all the time. I'm like, when I plan big things like field day or whatever, I'm like, Will, it's in my blood. I'm like, you're gonna do this someday. It's in your blood too. So we're training him, and I blame it on Dumbledore.
Right? We're gonna have another one.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Okay, so how else do you have like family connections throughout the day? Like with your kids, how do you make everyday connections count?
My kids are big visual learners, so I feel like a big part of what we do is like putting it up and around the house. And they're not always like a photo of a person. Sometimes it's, we'll have something Dutch because my family comes from, Dutch ancestry. And so
Yeah.
a lot of the traditions, like on Sundays, I make challah bread, which is this Jewish bread that my mom taught me how to make. And all of her
Okay.
ancestry is Jewish. So when we make the bread, it's easy to kind of like weave in like, hey, did you know that all of our family is Jewish? And do you know anything about the Jewish culture? And it kind of opens up. I didn't plan a lesson. I don't have any visual aids, but having them associate something as delicious as challah bread with their ancestry, I feel like kind of helps bridge the gap just a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So bringing in traditions and then talking about family and everyday things, dinner and getting ready for school. And that's really cool. I love that. So I know you have a really fun tradition in not St. Patrick's Day. Wow. I am on one today.
We've got one for that too, but not family history.
Well, then I can't wait to hear about that one. But Valentine's Day, I'm obsessed with it. Like, it's my favorite. So tell us about Valentine's Day in your family.
All right, so we call it the Lock the Love Fest, which is just a made up name that basically I felt like Valentine's Day, I put all this effort in to make all their little Valentines and get all the candy. But I felt like they were missing like what real love, if they just see Jason and I go on a date, that's not what I want them to get out of Valentine's Day. So I wanted a chance to tell our love story. And so we started by we go to the dollar store, we buy the cheapest, ugliest decorations, and we decorate the table and get like takeout. I don't make anything fancy. We get Chinese takeout or something, and then they come, and while they're eating, we tell our love story. So I take a minute to tell my side of the story. Jason tells his side of the story. And then sometimes there's been many times where they've watched us dance to our wedding song in the kitchen, or we'll put on our wedding video and make them watch it. And then at the end, they have a quiz basically. So we'll come up with questions based on what we told them. And then if they can answer the questions right, they get the little like Hershey Kiss stuff or whatever is at their plate.
I love that part.
And it's been so like we've probably done it for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And it's this, the last couple of years, all the kids are like, Mom, I got it. Like, I can tell you the story. So the last 2 years, they're the ones telling me my love story, and then they'll quiz me. And anyway, it's been kind of a fun, as they age, it's been fun to see how it switches around. But you don't really get many opportunities to talk about those bigger, more important things. But
it's true.
I want them to know it, so I feel like that was an easy tradition to add.
Yeah, I seriously love it. The second I heard about it, I was like, done. We're doing this. So,
did you do it this year?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's
yeah.
great.
My kids are small enough though that they totally were in like the what? Why are you telling us this type of thing? So I'm sure it'll catch on soon. Better. But yeah. We kind of forget, and one day we started talking, and like husband and I, what music we grew up with, and they were like, that's so cool. And we were like a dog, we're like, hey, Lex, to play this song. And while we're eating dinner, we're listening to songs from our child, and then we ended up calling our parents, so grandparents of my kids, and we started listening to some of their old songs, and it was really cool because I learned a lot about my family.
Yeah, you can tell a lot by the music of a person.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun because we like never would have had that opportunity before, and now we're having the opportunity to talk about these things and what music means to us and what songs are special. And so that's been a lot of fun. That clicked with them. The love story hasn't yet, but I'm going to keep pushing it.
But they're going to think it's gross for like the next 5-7 years. So just be prepared for that. They'll be like, Mom, stop. But this year we had Hannah and Jake, that's my newlywed couple, and so they got to add in their love story to the Lots of Love Fest, which was fun too. Because you want those stories to be like top of mind for all the kids who are coming after her as they're kind of looking for who to date and who to marry. And anyway, it's fun.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love that idea. What other fun traditions do you have that makes your family come together and connect with each other?
I think a big piece of what we do are like we get together for reunions, not just great big reunions, but small ones to, where you just get a few families together. And, we have a big tradition in my family of like games and activities and weird bonding opportunities. So I feel like that's really helped my kids get the gravity of things. Just making that a priority has helped a lot. We've also done a lot of recordings. So I don't know if you do this with your kids, but you get to be video recorded very much because they always are like, no, I don't, especially the teenagers. I don't look good today. I don't, but they'll do an audio recording without too much pressure. So a lot of times, like after Violet's birthday, I will come jump as I'm tucking her in, I'll jump in her bed and be like, hey, tell me about your day. And we just do a quick audio recording of what she remembers during her day. And those have become like a really awesome family history tool because I know it's something that I'm going to love forever. And it's something that will easily translate to, the next generation and the next. So trying to actively build our story is a big piece of what I try to do.
I love that. That is a cool idea to have them do the audio recording. My kids are big into YouTube, so I don't quite have that problem right now. And my 9-year-old's like, Mom, I have 6 subscribers. I'm so excited. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I've had those moments.
Right. Yes.
I remember watching Violet when she was little, like she set up stuff when she was getting her bath and she set up stuff and she's like, okay, friends, let me tell you about these toys I unboxed. And I'm like, okay, this is a bad sign.
You're like, yeah, we're not watching this right now.
We're going to cut this off, but yeah.
Yes, you feel my pain.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just fun to see them do those videos though and put them together. My son did one on my aunt who had cancer, and it really helped him walk through that process of she's not going to be here anymore. Like, let's get this through. And so that was really cool. But yeah, I love the idea of the audio recording. It's less invasive, especially like to the older members of your family, like grandparents and aunts and uncles. It's just you don't know I'm recording you, but I'm going to ask a question, and then I'm going to tell you I recorded you.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I give them a heads up. Sometimes I don't. Like one of my favorite recordings is I just put the phone in the middle of the dinner table. Like it was just kind of sitting there, but it was recording. So we got all the banter that happens at a normal family dinner. And we don't have a lot of family dinners at the table. Most of ours are at the counter or like rushing out the door, but I don't ever want to forget what that sounds like. The like sarcastic jokes back and forth and the like, he's touching me. And I you don't want to forget that. So I feel like preserving those, even just in audio form, is really valuable to me.
Yes. So you're telling me I should record us when we're in the car going on trips.
Yeah. That would be excellent.
To baseball. I'm going to do that this weekend. We're traveling from Idaho to Utah for baseball games. So I'm totally recording some of it.
Someday you'll appreciate it. In fact, you'll use it as armor someday and be like, hey kids, I remember what this was like. Let me play it for you.
This is what you used to do to me. Yes.
Yeah, it's good. It's all good.
I love that. That's so cool. And I think a love story is a great question to ask someone to get them talking.
Yeah.
I asked my aunt about it, and I learned how she met my uncle, and my my mom was there, and she's like, I didn't know some of that story. And I'm like, that's so cool that you learned that. So
well, and asking the same questions a few times because you don't get the same answer every time. So I kind of love, like if you build on that story, hey, I read about Grandpa and what he did for the the kids at Christmas. Did you know this? And then all of a sudden, new parts of the story open up. And so I kind of love, sometimes I think we think when we're trying to capture a story that we got to catch it all at once. But I actually love the like layered approach to stories. I feel like you get this full-bodied view over the course of time, and it kind of reminds you like, no, stories happen over time. They're remembered over time. So I think we should consume them over time as well.
Over time. Oh, I love that. I love that. The overtime concept and the layering. I love that. And I, when I interviewed my grandfather-in-law I don't know if that's the right word. Anyway, the next morning he woke up and he complained that he had been up till midnight because I got his brain thinking. And so he'd been thinking all night about his life. And I was like, okay, so what were you thinking about? Tell me.
Yeah. Let's record it.
Right. Yeah. So it ended up being another hour interview with him.
Oh,
and
awesome.
then the next day I got another hour. And so it was really cool. And that first interview turned out to be 10 pages. So I'm so excited to find out these next two.
Yeah.
How long they are. So yeah, I love that. I love that you're creating your family history too, like with your audio recordings. How else, and your love story, of course, but how else are you not creating, but like documenting your family history now, your life stories, your kids' life stories?
It sounds really lazy, but a lot of what I do is on Instagram. So I found that I love the way that when you do an Instagram story, you can save a highlight bubble. I don't care if anyone else clicks on it, but I have started to really love developing these highlight bubbles because they've been so easy. Like I can do it in 10 seconds and pick the ones I want and put in there. But I've found it incredibly valuable, like to be able to go back and remember what it was like when my daughter got her mission call, or to remember who helped at her wedding, or those kind of memories are because they're right there on my phone, and I can do it like when I'm in the pickup line. I can comb through those and I can remember things differently. Anyway, so I've loved, as lazy as it sounds, I've loved Instagram stories.
Perfect. And I love that stories. Most people talk about the posts and doing the picture and then the writing underneath.
Yeah, no, I'm terrible at posts. But because I feel like you have to like make it nice, I post, it stays forever. Whereas a story, I feel like I can be lazy and just slap some text up there. Anyway, so I like stories. They feel more real to me.
I like that. Well, and it's in the moment. Like you don't have to clean up behind you really fast and then record it. Like
right. Or put a beautiful caption on. It's just like, yeah, this is our day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That is so fun. What other tips do you have for us for making everyday family connections with each other?
I would just say you have to be like, it takes a little bit of initiative on your part. I wish I could say this is something that just naturally occurs. I just don't know my extended family well enough for those natural things to come in. So for me, I have to put a little bit of effort in up front to know even just a little bit of their story, or to recognize their faces in a picture. And what I found is anytime I put in that little bit, then all of a sudden it can turn into a whole bunch of little rivulets almost for my kids' life. So I think just taking like a certain time of your week where you focus on it, if I take a Sunday morning and I take 30 minutes to add a few more photos into my archive, or to learn one more story, or research one more newspaper article, then I found that you find cool ways to weave it in. But yeah, it takes that like little bit of individual initiative.
Intention, right? You have to do this intentionally. Yes. Right. Yes. Because it doesn't count unless you do that intention. Like, it just doesn't have the same meaning.
Yeah. When it doesn't stick with me either, like my brain tends to like let things go because there's too much busyness. But if I intentionally am trying to accumulate stories, or accumulate, I really want somebody for Will to look up to, who can I look at in our family line? So then I go and look for people who love engineering, or people who are musicians, or people who are great at chess. If I'm looking for a purpose, then when I'm searching family history, it doesn't feel as overwhelming to me because I'm just like searching. So like one time I was trying to help Sam feel connected to his ancestry. So I just went on Family Search and I searched for any other Sam Eckersleys. Like that was all we did. And we found I didn't know that there were like 4 other ones. So there were four other Samuel Eckersleys, or like in his line, that were named Samuel. So then we pulled all those photos together, and every one of them had a beard. And so Sam was like, "Oh, Mom, like I gotta get a beard because look, that's what all my ancestors do." So ever since then, he's been planning, like, am I gonna have kind of like an Iron Man beard? Am I gonna go with like a full? But in his mind, it's like, that's what my ancestors do, so I'm gonna do that too. So I feel like you don't really have to make it complicated. You just have to try to like really tie any kind of loose connection. And what I found with any kind of family history is it like strengthens on its own. It's just a beautiful thing about when you tie family together, those bonds just get tighter and tighter, and you don't have to do much of the work. You just have to get it rolling.
I'd love that. Oh, that is such a great tip. Real fast question. Where are you keeping these stories? Are they all up here? Do you have them on your computer or a website? Like, what do you keep?
My favorite, I really love the Family Search Memories app. It's free.
Okay.
For me, it's kind of like it's like a digital version of a shoebox, because you don't have to have everything organized and tagged and sorted. I literally just like dump everything in there. And then as I can, then I start to tag things. So I used that app when I was doing that photos on the kitchen table. I just put them all in the Memories app. And then when I'd go to lunch with my mom, I'd say, hey, I can't figure out who this is. And once she told me, then I would tag them. And then it actually got linked to my tree. But I love the Memories app because it's private. It's not something that's like for everybody, but I can choose what is shared and what isn't. And anyway, that's my favorite tool. That and Google Photos. That's what I use for like our current storage. But I love, as I'm archiving, I like the Memories app.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Awesome. Okay. Any last words that you would like to share with everyone?
I would just say, like, don't be scared to start. I was a very reluctant family history person because I was afraid I would feel guilty. And honestly, I just didn't have any more brain space to feel guilty. So I was afraid it would feel like when you like have a friend who's super healthy and they talk about it all the time and you just feel guilty. So what I found is like, it's family. And the closer you get to family, the less guilty you feel because you're like, you feel at home, like the more of these bonds, even little stringy bonds that you make, you feel like, oh, this is home. And when I come home, it is never pressure. It's never stress. It's like, oh, I can relax. I can enjoy. And so you just have to trust that the process will make you feel more at peace, not more pressure and afraid. You just have to get started.
I love that. I love that. Amen. It's not something to feel guilty over. What you're doing is enough. That's why these everyday connections are so important. And the little things that you can do, those count. Those are family history.
Yeah,
I love it.
And they'll be enough.
Yes, totally. Awesome. Okay. I just want to do a quick plug because I absolutely love you. But tell us about your website and what's on it.
Okay, so I have a website called MeckMom.com, which is basically just a giant dumping ground of all my family fun ideas. So I love to like incorporate creativity and fun into my kids' lives and my life. So but I know that there are some like creative hurdles for other people. Either they don't have the design skills or they can't come up with a scavenger hunt. So the site is designed to kind of get over the creative hurdles so that you can just like do something cool with your kids. That's kind of the idea.
I love it. It totally helped me when I was a room mom for Halloween.
Oh, sweet.
During the Halloween party, I was like, okay, here you go. Those are our games. And I had everything. It was so nice. So much pressure off of me.
Good. That was the whole goal.
Yep. And so it worked. It's perfect. So go check her out on MeckMom.com. And she is on Instagram. Are you on Facebook too? I can't remember.
I am on Facebook too, although not as actively. Instagram's probably my go-to, but I'm on both.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all those fun ideas and tips. Of
course. It's always a pleasure. When I first met you, I'm like, oh, we're going to be friends. Like you could just tell. So
I know.
No, it was great to chat with you.
Yes. Yeah. When we first met, I was like, oh, Maria is so cool. I love her. So I got in the car because my mom was watching my kids and I was just telling her about our meeting and like everyone that was there. And she goes, wait, hold on. Who? And I'm like, Maria. And she's like MeckMom. And I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, I love your mom. She was so cute.
She was so excited. Anyway, and then one of my other friends found out that I had met you and they're like, wait, what? And so you are very loved. My circle of friends.
That's sweet of them. No, it's a good space to be in, I gotta say.
Yes. And you are very loved and I love everything you put out. So it's good.
Thanks so much.
Awesome.
It's good to be with you. Yeah.